guys, back again. If you're a hot rod or muscle car fan, you already know this guy. His name is Steve Strope, and he hails from a little town in upstate New York. The muscle cars he's built over the years have graced the pages and covers of many a magazine. They've also won top awards at a whole bunch of legendary car shows, and they've also appeared in several Fast and Furious movies. What? The Anvil Mustang was his. That was from Fast 6. And the beautiful 1970 Roadrunner that we see at the end of Tokyo Drift was also his. Both of those were his creations. For Fast 4, the picture car department actually built 3 Hammer clones of the car that he created. Both of those satellites that we used as substitutes for the Roadrunner were totaled during production. But the real Roadrunner, which was running a 383 with the 4-speed, was saved and is in storage to this day. Or at least last I heard. One of his other creations, the Anvil Mustang, is a car that we see Tyrese driving in Fast 6. And while it might look like any old '69 Mustang to amateurs, you gotta get up close to see what's going on. Steve Strope built that car from Matt Lasik of Anvil Auto, and it's a masterpiece. It's appeared at many shows, including the SEMA show. And in Fast 9, which is due out in theaters in just a few weeks, you're gonna see another one of his works, his Black Ops Fairlane, which debuted at the 2014 SEMA. I gotta tell you, I've seen his cars in person. Steve's builds are on a whole nother level. I've seen Boyd Coddington and Chip Foose builds up close, and while those cars are great, Steve's cars seem to combine muscle cars, historic racing, and European pizzazz all together to create something that is nothing short of art. I had to learn more about the work that Steve's shop, Pure Vision, does, so we paid him a visit. So here is what he had to say in his own words.
Hi, my name is Steve Strope, and I own a little company called Pure Vision here in Simi Valley, California. I came from a very small farm town in upstate New York called Appalachian, where growing up I dove heavily into the deep end of Hot Rod Magazine, Carcraft, popular hot rodding, and anything else I could get my grubby little paws on. Every toy I had got modified. That turned into the addiction of BMX, which for many, not just myself, many other car guys, that was their gateway drug into hot rodding, and I'll explain. With BMX, you wound up modifying the bike. You chose your colors. My bike was chrome with red parts. My friend's David, his bike was blue with gold parts. So you got to learn how to not strip out stuff, hopefully, learn how to use wrenches, learned how to personally choose your higher performance parts, and that of course gave way to cars. And I eat, breathed, and slept that stuff. Wound up moving to Southern California and was very fortunate back in '95 when I moved out here to be featured by Jeff Smith, then editor of Hot Rod Magazine, and gave me my first magazine feature with a '67 El Camino that I built myself, basically in between my garage at home and my aunt's garage down the street from me. So that segued into building some personal cars in my underground parking garage in Studio City, California, and in driveways of friends' homes. That turned into 2 separate top 10 cars of the year with Hot Rod Magazine. Finally got the gumption up to open up a shop, and it kept rolling from there. Been very, very fortunate that a lot of the press and media, as the aforementioned magazines and then different television stuff and movie stuff, started taking an interest in the craziness that was coming out of my head, and I've been super fortunate since. I work with some of my best friends. Guys that work for me are good friends. They've been here for a long time. 2 guys are, I think, on their 16th year of being with me. And luckily, also, I've had great relationships with different sponsors and companies that make parts and pieces that we use on the car. So a lot of hard work, but a lot of extremely talented people around me coming together in a team effort to do some pretty cool stuff. So my spiral down into the Fast and Furious world, I received a phone call by a gentleman named Dennis McCarthy. Awesome cat. And he's the dude who puts all the cool cars in all of the Fast and Furious movies. So Dennis was actually on the hunt for a car. They had already filmed Tokyo Drift, but they had a new ending of the movie that just got written in. It was bringing back Vin Diesel's character in. There was going to be this nighttime drag race inside of a mall. And they wanted, quote, the baddest Mopar they could get their hands on. So if I remember correctly, Dennis was asking around different people and was asking some of the editors then at Hot Rod Magazine, who's got a badass Mopar? And they said, Strope over at Pure Vision has this car named Hammer, which we had unveiled at SEMA. So Dennis got my phone number from them. He called up and introduced himself and got right to business and said, so I hear you have a pretty badass Mopar. And I go, yeah, we do. And he asked if we could bring it by for this thrown in last minute bit of the movie. We brought it down, and as they say, that's history. It was used in the scene, which was kind of important because, like I said, it brought Vin Diesel's character back into the movie franchise. And that was my first time of filming with the Fast and Furious people. Fantastic, everybody in the crew was fantastic. Stunt guys were wonderful. I gave them permission to, we did some gratuitous burnouts with the car. There was no faking. We just nailed and leaned into it and just got big old burnouts with it. So we had a lot of fun. That was like, we started, I think, at like 10 p.m. and filmed all the way till 6 in the morning the next morning. So that was my first time filming with the Fast and Furious folks and Dennis McCarthy. So the second time I was honored with working with the Fast franchise was Fast 4. And they had, Dennis called up, again, Dennis McCarthy called up, and we had just finished a 72 Torino, a beautiful blue Torino with white stripes that we had unveiled at SEMA. And he had interest in that, and we brought that down to Universal 3 times for them to consider. Also, they wanted to reuse Hammer, but what they were wind up doing is they said they were just going to build some copies of Hammer, which they did. And I believe that is the car that Letty dies in, rolls, is in Hammer, or a copy of Hammer. And the Torino they were interested in using as the bad guy's car, which they did, but instead of using my car, for some reason they thought it would be better green, so they built themselves some copies of my Torino. They used our striping and our wheel design and how I laid out the car. And it's still a huge compliment, even though they weren't using our car as a hero car. Obviously, it's a copy of Hammer and the Torino, which it was very funny because a lot of people on my end of the industry, the hot rod side, who caught the film knew because of my striping and my wheels, like, hey, they copied Pure Vision's blue Torino. And they did, but I had the car there for them to look at. But again, what an amazing opportunity, and it's a compliment to my guys and my team and our shop. So once again, it was an honor to be involved with them. So the final time, hopefully not the last time ever, but the final time I was involved with Fast and Furious was Fast 6. And they borrowed a lovely little Mustang we built called the Anvil Mustang. A very, very trick piece. It won, up at SEMA, it won the Ford Design Award, Car of the Show. Tons of carbon fiber, cantilever, inboard, coilover, push rod, suspension, trick all the way around. And they wanted to use it as a hero car. And they wanted to take it overseas. The aforementioned Dennis McCarthy promised me that it'll be perfectly fine and safe. So, unbeknownst to me, they are building stunt doubles of the car because the car is going to get ran over by a tank. I don't know about this. I just know my car is going to go get filmed and they're borrowing it. And I had become friends with some of the guys in Dennis's crew. And they were super nice and said, hey man, I'm going to be personally looking out for your car. We're going to make sure it's okay. I'm going to make sure who's going to get in it and who's not. Don't worry about it, because it's a very high dollar car. Very high dollar car. And it's somebody's property. It's not mine. It's a customer that I built, allowing this car to go. So anyway, it's overseas, and I get a text from Dennis. The text, now when they built a stunt double, sometimes it's a little loosey-goosey, sometimes it looks just like the car. And they did a very good job with the stunt double that they ran over with a tank, which I didn't know about. And Dennis sends me a picture of what I thought was the car I built, about this tall, and just said something along the lines of, we had a stunt go wrong, or we had a mishap. And I proceeded to have a mental meltdown, and I'm trying to craft what I'm going to be politically correctly writing to him. And while I'm crafting this, he of course sent another text going, it's a stunt double, don't worry about it, you know, your car is perfectly fine. I'm like, oh, I'm going to kill you when you get back here. So a lot of fun, and of course, when you watch Fast 6, you'll see it get run over by a tank, but it's obviously not the original. But I still got to get Dennis back for that. I'm coming for you, brother. So a lot of fun again, great guys, and of course made my stuff look fantastic on the big screen, even when it's getting run over by a tank. So the specs on the Anvil Mustang, a 69 Mustang Fastback. We, along with the people at Anvil Auto that specialize in carbon fiber panels for muscle cars, so we redeveloped and re-engineered along with them the front fenders, the hood, front bumper, rear extensions, deck lid, rear spoiler. So that's all bolt on your 69 or 70 Mustang, carbon fiber bits and pieces. It has a kind of a one-off. The rear suspension is from Mike Meyer, is a inboard cantilever pushrod coilover suspension that is sitting in the back seat area for you to look at when you're driving, which is really dangerous because you should be looking forward, but it's so cool to watch it working, right? Then when you pop the hood, sitting on either side of the engine is a set of inboard coilovers. All of them are on aircraft quality quick release pins, so at the track you pull the pins, pull the coilover, switch your springs, pop it back in, because we're that bitchin'. It's got a John Kaase, you can look him up, K-A-A-S-E, one of the best engine builders on the planet. John Kaase, Boss 9, he took the famous Boss 429, got rid of all the little problems that they didn't get rid of back in the day. This motor, all aluminum, fuel injected, makes all day long 805 horsepower, about the same in torque, and it will gladly rip your head off. Fun to drive, very spirited, I should say. Of course, stick manual car. A lot of fun, some one-off wheels from a fantastically talented company called EVOD, shod with Michelin Pilot Sports. I copied the rim design off of the Gurney Eagle. You can look that up too, a very famous road race car by Dan Gurney. So bits and pieces around that we moved. You Mustang guys stare at the front end and the taillight panel for a while. See the little things that we moved around, very subtly, but lots of fun, great car. Eric Thorson interior on that car. And of course you can see more about that on my site at purevisiondesign.com under the Halo cars, or just look up Anvil Mustang, and I'm sure these guys will have some really cool stuff on the car too. But that's a little bit about the Anvil. So my wonderful relationship with Universal continues with new Fast 9, and for you eagle-eyed guys out there that have seen the new trailer, you'll see a little home scene, and parked out by the curb is our 66 Fairlane, and that is a very special little car also that, like the Anvil Mustang, won the Ford Design Award a different year at SEMA, Car of the Show, and that has got, it's set up like a prototype NASCAR. And it's got, of course, an illegal motor for NASCAR. It's got the sock motor in it, and we did a one-off intake that I wanted it to look like. There's a gentleman back in the day named Mickey Thompson that did lots of prototype and trying new things in the muscle car and speed world. So we did an intake with 4 separate 2 barrels, kind of like a cross ram setup, and the car has a hidden torsion bar suspension. The torsion bars are actually going through the inside of the frame rails and kick out at the lower control arm in the front, and the torsion bars for the rear suspension are up under the package tray in the trunk and feed down through rods that go through holes in the center of the upper frame rails and kick down to the top of the rear axle. Again, some amazing rims by EVOD. This time I copied the Lamborghini Miura wheel, and you're like, Miura wheel on an old NASCAR? It works, mate, trust me. The little rear spoiler in the back of the car is hooked up to the braking system. It's actually an air brake. So when you touch the brakes, the spoiler goes up vertical. When you're off the brakes, it goes back down. So it works in conjunction with the braking system, which was happening back in the day with, you can look up Jim Hall or Chaparral Can-Am race cars. They had giant wings on the top of their car that they got rid of the sticks. They went with an automatic, and the extra pedal made this giant wing go up and down. It was an air brake. So I took from that technology of the day and integrated it kind of in my own way in the Fairlane. And again, you can learn more online about the Fairlane, either on our site at purevisiondesign.com, or here. I'm sure we'll be throwing up some cool photos and some tech about the car. But really, really neat piece. And again, thankful that Universal wanted it to be part of their filming. So my take on performance now, it is the golden age. It's kind of the best of times, worst of times, if you want to quote the old book. Best of times, oh my goodness, back in the day, you know, when the muscle car craze came out, and the big three are making 426 Hemis with 4-speeds and SS 427s and sock motors and all these amazing things that you can go down to the dealership and buy. And they were definitely following the old win on Sunday, sell on Monday, you know, NASCAR and drag racing and all that stuff, super stock classes. You know, you too can be part of this, and now you don't even have to be at home building, say, because the generation before, doing the street rod thing, Dry Lakes racing thing, Bonneville, and drag racing with rail jobs, or doing street rods, 30s and 40s cars, and then into the 50s, like 57 Chevy, you know, you're swapping in the bigger engines, and then it's evolving into, now you can go to the dealership and buy a performance car, right? And of course, that lasts about a day, thus the term day two car. You bring the car home on Friday night, then you buy your Krager mags, your hijacker air shocks, your Lakewood traction bars, your 3-spoke chrome steering wheel, your B&M or her shifter, you know, and all the cool stuff under the hood, your aluminum valve covers and T-handle valve cover bolts, and you know, your yellow super stock wires from Excel, you know, and the older cats know exactly what I'm talking about. And those cars, there were some that mustered under 14 and 13 second quarters. And of course, limited suspension technology and tire technology. For those of you that want to be amazed, look up FAST, F-A-S-T, drag racing series, the factory appearing stock. Everything on these cars have to look like it came off the showroom, and these cars are cutting like 9s and 8s. On the factory bias ply tires. Go figure that out, how they do that. That being said, today, holy mackerel, you go to a dealership and buy a 700 horsepower car. Or of course the Dodge Demon. You can go 9s with a warranty and AC and sat nav. You know, what the heck's going on? Let alone you go into the supercar world, the hypercar world. What's going on there? Oh my God. You know, the stuff, as long as you got the bread, you can go buy stuff that's outer worldly fast now. And it can be argued that the cars do too much for you. There's no visceral to it anymore. There's no seat of your pants, I'm terrified anymore. Unless you own a Lambo, they still scare the shit out of you, which is good. Keep that up. So now we have a crossover evolution. Tesla, let's go to them. There's other electric stuff happening now. Porsche's got some great stuff. Whole bunch of people. Ferrari's getting into that game. Lambo, by the way, not doing hybrid. They are having electric motors, but they're basically using the cruise system. It's just to regenerate power. Good on them. But with your Tesla, those of you that don't know it, they've got an upgrade called Ludicrous Speed, which of course is taken from Spaceballs. Go check it out. Great movie by Mel Brooks. Ludicrous Speed, you have an electric car that, I don't even know the numbers, but it's pretty scary how fast those cars are. So you've got a golden age of speed available. But with worst of times, why I made that comment, we're kind of losing the visceral. Watching like the electric F1, the E series, I hear tires squealing. I've sponsored a couple of AA fuel nostalgia funny cars, and the newer fuel cars are running over 10,000 horsepower, and when they go by you on the track, they actually shake your innards. That doesn't happen in an electric car. They'll have an electric drag car, I'm sure, at some point that will go even faster than our already 330 mile an hour cars, but there'll be no wow factor. It'll just be pff, it's like turning a light switch on. You know, so our performance world is gaining this unbelievable ability to go unbelievable speeds and handle incredibly, brake incredibly, do all these things that we've wanted our cars to be able to do, but there's a conversation at what cost? And for those of you who've never done it, if you've gotten in a supercar or a really fast, say new 911, or go strap yourself into a GT2, get out of that car, go drive an earlier 911, or even better, a little 356 with like 80 horsepower. That is what a real sports car experience is, because you are tied to that thing. You will feel the tires slipping around. You'll feel everything. And again, it's visceral. It's a contact. And it's kind of what makes human human, you know? You can't virtually climb Mount Everest. You can, but that's not climbing Mount Everest. So that's where the crossroads are happening for me personally, and for a lot of guys who are very knee deep into this hobby, industry, sport, that with all these amazing performance gains, we're losing some of that earthy connection, that sound, that violence. It's just like sublight speed. And as incredible as that is, so we'll see where all that goes.
Picture car coordinator Dennis McCarthy absolutely knows talent when he sees it. And so people like Steve Strope got the call, and this is how his cars wound up in the movies. It was great having him on. Hope you tune in for another episode. If you're liking the content, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to get some cool apparel and merchandise, I now have a merchandise store. You can check that out. A link is in the description below. Thanks again, everybody. We will see you next time.